These three that I put right there, Death Battles. I think Animation Rewind is pretty cool in ways, some ways. Uh, Now the only thing that's killing his all his stuff, I would say, is there's too much memey and funny fights. Now don't get me wrong. I think just having a serious is kind of eh. Kind of shows. I mean, kind of brings a lot of the toxic fan bases, to the channel. So it's okay to have somewhat of a funny fight. And I think Animation Rewind kind of has too many funny fights. You know, in my opinion, about 1 minute melee, I think number one. To be honest, me, I always was. I don't hate 1 minute melee. But I wouldn't say it's my favorite one. They kind of matchup wise, I'd say they are better than a lot of other channels. That's a positive. Time wise, well, it's self-explained 1 minute melee, but I did see that Aizen versus Madara fight that was more than 1 minute, so I think that was a pretty cool example of a good fight. Now let me just say this real quick: when it comes down to Naruto versus Bleach, I have watched somewhat of both. I'd say I liked both of them. Some people have either one side or the other. In my opinion, I think Naruto and Ichigo are two cool anime dudes. So before you say fanboy, no, I enjoy both characters and both series. From what I've seen. But besides that, yeah, I think a lot of times, when seeing these fight channels, I'd say these three are the ones that pop up the most in mind. And when I'm seeing a lot of people talk about fight channels. Now, one thing I want to talk about also is matchups and try to give and say this. Look, there are, a lot of times when I'm seeing a lot of these fight channels, they kind of use characters from the same company, franchise, or series. Like for example, how many times do we need a Sega character to be in a fight? How many times do we need a Nintendo character to be in a fight? You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying, oh, they should do fights that only I want, so don't get the wrong idea. I think having a diversity within a community like this, especially a fighting community, would be good for everyone, the viewer and the creator. Now, look, yes, there's a lot of fights that I would say, deserve a better matchup, so bring those characters back. I won't lie. For example, I say a bad matchup would be how Dead Battle handled Genos. And like he deserved better. It was just like, why did you do that? And so if Animation Rewind or Woman Melee does another fight with Genos, but uses a better character, a better opponent, I think that would be pretty cool. So not always. So that's why I say I'm not 100%. On the fact that only this, if one channel uses these characters, the other channels don't. But in the same time, I don't want to see, a lot of fight channels using the same exact characters. For example, why does it need to always, like I said, a lot of times be like characters from superhero like companies, or characters from say, well, video games, right? For example, I'd say a lot of characters that deserve a little bit more love would be like, well, I've seen a lot of those indie characters. For example, I liked how that battle used Shovel Knight, a character that not a lot of people has represented in the fighting community from what I've seen at the time. Now I say at the time because nowadays maybe everyone's using him, right? But from back then when they originally made Shovel Knight Dead Battle, in my opinion, I only saw maybe two or three, and two of them are from this, Animation Rewind channel. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, kind of the critics. Me, I've seen many of these Dead Battle critic channels. For example, I've seen, what was it? Set the Programmer. And other critics that have called out the Battle for shit that they've done. And look, a lot of times I agree with some of them. And and some fights that they kind of call in now. For example, like I said, one fight that was really bad, Unity would Tifa versus you know who, Yang from Rooster Teeth, which, eh, you know. But besides that, I think a lot of these fighting channels kind of should experiment more on other characters from other series. For example, Asuka no Gumi from what was it, the from the Sukuban Deca series. I think that would be pretty interesting. Maybe Izumi could fight. I mean, Asuka could fight Izumi. I believe that's another girl's name from that. What was it, that genre, right? But besides that, yeah, it should be represented like that. Characters for that really don't know. I mean, doesn't have that big of a cult following nowadays. But I would also say this. Now, if one channel uses a character and kind of makes it, puts them in a situation that is kind of like, okay, this is pretty much a fucking stomp, then I'd say it's okay. Please use the same character for another fight. We do another fight with this character. It's not good. For example, a fight that I would think would be pretty cool would be, and me, from what I've seen, you know, um, from what I've heard described of this character, it'll be somewhat of a maybe, what was it, kind of weird matchup. But in my opinion, it would be interesting. Now, I don't want characters to verse each other if they're going to have the same exact powers or thing. For example, Ace versus Natsu, fire versus fire, one eats fire, blah, blah, blah. All of that. We know. I say that could have been handled better, but them should have another fight with other opponents. But I would say one good fight would be interesting would have Caulifla from Dragon Ball Super versus Tatsumaki from One Punch Man. Now, I think that would be a good fight for a few reasons. Number one, seeing how, what was it, Tatsumaki's psychic and abilities and all that stuff versus Super Saiyan female, and seeing how, both of them interact with each other, who's going to be faster, who's going to be, use their powers more, kind of use their head and be like, look, I'm going to do this, I'm a trap her, and I'm going to, come from behind and attack while they are defenseless. You know what I mean? Something like that I see within that fight. Another fight I would see is Ibuki versus Yuffie. Now that would be pretty interesting too. One has materia, the other one has, or what was it? She has a spark that comes out of the hand, and then they're both ninjas. That's similarities. They are both, what was it? Characters that's known to not be as powerful as the main cast. Like, you couldn't compare Tifa, comparing, comparing Yuffie to Cloud, Cloud is stronger. Comparing Ryu to Ibuki, Ryu is stronger. So they're not as, like, oh shit, it's like going to be 50-50. Like, for example, Naruto and Sasuke, they have, from what I've heard, they are similar in power and stuff like that. Stuff like that. So I would say it wouldn't be like that. It would be different. So I think that matchup would be pretty interesting as well. Also, another fight that I've heard recently, which was pretty interesting and cool, I think it would be the fight of the Pilaf gang from Dragon Ball versus Team Rocket from Pokemon. Now that would be an interesting and good fight, in my opinion. And I've heard it spoken about before. And another thing I want to say is that, it has potential to be not only a positive and funny fight, funny fight in a good way, and provide some, interesting, things during the fight. I think it will also show that, look, just because, what was it, smaller characters within a series is, not as huge and well known nowadays within the franchise, they could still be used and still be recognized as good. For example, a lot of times when I see them use shonen characters, it always needs to be a big shonen character. It always needs to be Naruto. It always needs to be Ichigo. Now, in my opinion, why don't you use other characters as well? For example, like within Dragon Ball, use a character that has shown to have, powerful feats and powerful forces. Like, for example, besides the Pilaf King, we got Videl from Dragon Ball. Besides using, Cloud, Sephiroth, and other Final Fantasy characters. Kind of be more specific and use characters that kind of deserve more love and that's shown to have strength that as powerful as, not as powerful as the main cast. Like, I mean, the main character like Cloud. Like Yuffie. For example, I would like to see. And if you're going to want an interesting godlike fight, someone like Haruhi Suzumiya, she could force that chick from, what was it? I heard that. Not a certain scientific index, but it's something similar. Wait up. I believe her name is Aijin. I'm not sure. My friend was telling me about that. So I was like, okay, I saw it once. And I was like, you know what? It's pretty cool. One thing I want to talk about that maybe I talked about it before, but the mindless fights, for example, the DBX fights, would fit in this. Now, 1 minute melee, fights that are, sometimes a little weird too, to be honest. But I say the DBX of the Death Battles, the Death Battle channel, is an example of mindless fights. I think, they should provide more information and stuff like that. Now, recently, what I've seen the DBX do is they kind of, I think they were, kind of trying to do that stuff with the new setup they've been doing with a host and all that. Now, I'll be honest, I think, they should kind of focus more on the Dead Battle side instead of the DBX side. So that's my opinion on dumb. Now, when it comes down to the 1 minute melee stuff, from what I've seen, I think they should also kind of focus on the characters as well a little bit more, because from what I've seen, a lot of times it's just like these characters are both has feats that could be level, what was it, god level and all that stuff, and that's it. And a lot of times in the comments I've seen, in a lot of these fight series is like, oh, they kind of deserve better matchups. And then I was searching up the matchups of a lot of characters that people are claiming should have been matched up, and they are correct. They kind of sound more interesting, and they kind of sound more understandable why they will fight. Why this matchup is better than this matchup. They kind of have a better, argument on why this is a good fight compared to the one the channel put them against. So, to be honest, overall, I think the fighting industry, I mean, fictional fan fights, that community, it's pretty cool. I enjoy them. I'm still going to be watching them, to be honest. But I do think that there should be more diversity on what characters from what series or franchise should be used. You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, I would enjoy to see Oscar from the Segaman Deku series, company be used. I think that would be interesting. For example, like one fight channel that I have been recently seeing, on my feed and checking out would be that One Fish Mob. In my opinion, the first video I saw of his was Goku vs. Naruto. And look, I love both characters, and I loved to see the fight, I won't lie. But then, I was like, you know what? This is kind of, shonen versus shonen. Like, it's okay, but a lot of times recently also, there have been a lot of fights kind of doing a lot of shonen versus shonen. It's like, there needs to be a limit, long story short. At least have a gap. Have shonen versus shonen, have a big gap, maybe one character versus another character, and make it interesting, within the in between the fights, and then you could have another shonen versus shonen. Why does it need to always be one big character versus another big character and have the same series versus each other? Just because one character from that series lost, there needs to be another one. Like, why? Kind of separate it more. Also, another thing I want to say is, if you're going to put the same series fighting each other, I don't think that's a good idea. For example, why have Metal Sonic versus, what was it, Sonic himself? You know what I mean? Like, no, there should be one, what was a Sonic character versus say for example, Sonic versus Crash Bandicoot would be better than Sonic versus Sonic EXE. Now, that's another issue that I've been seeing, the same series is fighting the same series. Like, I don't want to, like, that's, like, why? It's just, for example, yeah, I understand, look, if it's going to be, I don't have an issue if it's going to be one series from one company versus another series from the same company. Like, that, okay, if you want to do that, okay? But my issue is when you put the same series against each other. Like, for example, Sonic versus Knuckles. Why would you have Sonic versus Knuckles? Now I don't think anyone done that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if they did, holy shit. And they should do better matchups. You know what I mean? Now, you know what, let me just say a few other matchups that I think would be interesting, okay? Sonic vs. Crash Bandicoot. Amy Rose versus Coco. Like that would be somewhat interesting. Either one would be pretty cool, better than, to be honest, I like the Amy Rose that battle. I think it was pretty cool. I love one of my favorite Sonic characters. But I think if they're going to reuse her, they should kind of choose a little bit of a match up. Now, it was a good entry matchup, but if they're going to use her again, make it better. And maybe Coco from Crash Bandicoot could fight Amy Rose. Make it more interesting. Now, besides all that, to be honest, I think I kind of talked about every single point, and I don't want to drag the video on and just come up with random stuff at the, what to think. So I'm going to end it off here like this. Me, I enjoy these fight channels. I enjoy the fictional fights, and to be honest, I want to make this video to kind of show them my issues, and please try to fix the issues that they have. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to improve these fight channels. I want there to be more competition for all three of these. You know what I mean? More competition, more diversity, and better matchups. You know what I mean? And also, like I said, stop. Like if you're gonna do the same fight as another channel, actually do it to justify, the characters. Correct the issues that that other fight series has, unfortunately not shown. For example, the misinformation that they did in this fight, pretty messed up. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I was kind of thinking about this. I was like wondering why they always kind of using the same characters from similar series. It's always one-sided, or this entire series versus this series, Mario versus Sonic World. It's like similar to that, right? And that's kind of why I wanted to make this video. I kind of saw like a pattern going a lot of the times. So with that being that, tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye.